Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Zoo School Live. This week on Zoo School, we are celebrating in advance from World Migratory Bird Day, which actually is going to happen this Saturday on May 8th. So if you weren't able to join us on Tuesday, we met with one of our ambassador animals. His name was Banshee. He was a barn owl, to talk a little bit about World Migratory Bird Day and how it is a celebration of our connection to the migratory birds that share our habitats. So today we're going to meet another very special guest. He's waiting right next to me here. He's actually been on Zoo School before, early last year when we first started doing Zoo School, but hopefully you guys will enjoy seeing him again today. And we're going to do something a little bit differently with him. We're basically going to run a live training session. So before we have him join us, we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can help during World Migratory Bird Day, how you can help protect the birds that live in our local habitat. So on Tuesday we mentioned keeping your pets indoors or keeping them on a leash is a really big way to protect them. You can also help to make your house more bird safe, and that could include providing native plants. If you guys want some inspiration, you can check out our Zoo School Live episode from a couple weeks ago where we went and did a garden tour to see all the native plants we have here at the zoo. You can also set up some window stickers. So that's actually a huge way you can help different bird species of all kinds. And I actually have some pictures to show you guys. If you're not familiar, you can get different shapes and sizes of stickers that go on your windows. Now the traditional ones actually have a bird shape like this, and they're kind of opaque or dark in coloration. And these would go on your window, and they basically help the birds to realize that it's not something they can fly through, because that's a big problem for many migratory birds, especially when they're traveling this time of year from their winter grounds to their summer grounds. If you're not into that bird shape though, they come in different patterns and sizes that look a little more fashionable, or if you're really into like Art Deco, things like that. So these are just some squares, there are dots, all different types. But window stickers are a really simple thing you can do that doesn't cost a whole lot of money to help prevent birds from hitting the glass when they're flying through. You can also make sure that you're using bird-friendly materials. If you have pests in your area, try to avoid pesticides. We talked a lot about that on Tuesday with Banshee because owls in particular are very susceptible to being poisoned by rodenticides. So it's important to think about the chemicals and things that you use in your everyday life. Now the friend we're going to meet today, his name is Killian, and he is a red-tailed hawk. So I actually have some feathers to show you guys before he comes out. So red-tailed hawks are named for their beautiful reddish colored tail feathers. So this is actually a feather that was molted out or shed by our friend Killian. So you can see that kind of brownish red color. Red-tailed hawk feathers can come in a variety of different types of red. Sometimes they're really bright red, almost like our tablecloth. Other times they're more of a tan coloration. So, but in general, they're gonna have a red tail. And then their wings and other parts are gonna have more of this kind of gray-brown with some striping and white. So you'll see that in action when he comes out today. Take note of those beautiful colors. So what we're gonna do with Killian is we're going to have him show off a little bit on what he's been working on. Now there is some construction going on in the zoo right behind us today, so we're gonna hope that our friend Killian just ignores that. We're gonna hope you guys can hear us perfectly fine. I'll talk nice and loud for you. But what we're gonna try to do is have Killian come out of his crate to a station and go to that perch over there. And what we've been working on with him is doing really short flights from the perch to the glove. So you guys can see I have on our traditional raptor gauntlet. This is made of very thick leather, and especially thick around the fingers and the thumb because like other birds of prey, Killian, the red-tailed hawk, has talons and they're very strong and they can grip very tightly. So I want to protect my arm. But what we're hoping to do today is have Killian do a couple flights back and forth from the perch. Now this is going to be voluntary. I do have him on a very long line just in case. We don't want him to fly around the room and get hurt. But in the event that he doesn't feel like flying to me, we're just gonna let him sit on his perch and we'll talk a little bit more about it. So we've been working on this behavior with him for around a few months, and Killian actually is not able to truly fly. So once he comes out, I'll talk a little more about why he ended up here at the zoo, but he's one of our ambassador birds that came from a wildlife rehab situation. So I'm gonna have him come out. We're gonna see if he wants to participate a little bit today, and we'll talk more about him. So today he's getting some good snacks. We feed our birds of prey usually mice and rats and chicks and things like that here at the zoo. So I've got some mouse tidbits for him. So hopefully he's nice and hungry. So we're gonna see if he wants to come out and say hello. All right, buddy. Ready? No. And you might need a moment to decide. Good job, bud. And if we need to, we'll give him a minute to kind of look around. Sometimes that's what he wants to do, is check things out. Good boy. So we'll see his wings in action a little bit here today. Now looking at him just right now, it's not super obvious, but Killian actually is missing part of a wing. So the wing, I believe it's the wing closest to me, you'll see, is a little short. So unfortunately, he is not able to fly truly like most birds or hawks would. So that's part of the reason why he's here with us at the zoo. We'll see if he wants to go to his little perch. You want to sit with me? That's okay too. There you go. All right. So you can see that beautiful red tail and that kind of brown-gray pattern on his wings. So when he flies, and again, this is all his choice, we'll see if he wants to today, you'll notice that he kind of has to push himself up really high and over to the side to end up coming to the glove. So we'll see, we'll give him an easy hop here to see if he wants to come over. Hi. Oh, we're probably gonna have to lighten the load. That's okay, this is pretty normal. Great job, buddy. You're a true star. Good job. So you can really see when he does open up those wings, that shortness. Now, unfortunately, Killian, we believe, suffered from a gunshot wound, which might seem really strange. Why on earth would somebody be hunting a hawk or shooting at a hawk? But it's actually really common even today. Even though they are protected birds, unfortunately, people still do persecute them. They think that they're going to eat all their wildlife in the area. They're going to think they're going to eat their chickens and their small dogs and their children. Now, red-tailed hawks are opportunistic hunters. They will take advantage of a situation if they can, but generally, they don't want anything to do with us. So they're not going to go out of their way to hunt things where humans are set up. So if you were in your yard and you're watching your children and watching your pets and protecting your chickens with just common barriers, these guys are not really going to be a threat to you. They are often going to take advantage of easy situations that are safer for them. Now, as he's hopping, these guys are actually going to spend a lot more time soaring. You might notice that his wings are really wide, and that's because red-tailed hawks belong to a group of hawks called the bootios, and they are going to have really wide, big wings for spending time really high in the sky catching the wind. So they are not necessarily going to be the speedsters of the bird world, not like our falcons and some of our smaller hawks that might come to your backyard, bird feeders. Things like Cooper's hawks and sharpshins, they are more designed for forest hunting and they need agility, whereas a red tail is power and, oops, sorry buddy, power and efficiency. So they are going to try to take advantage of wind and different currents to save energy. Now this type of hawk also is extremely common. If you've ever seen a hawk sitting along the roadside, flying through your neighborhood, sitting on a fence post, it's probably been a red tail. And that's really cool because many bird species have actually declined because of human impacts. But when we talk about a red-tailed hawk, they've actually increased their area that they live and their population because they have adapted super well to living near humans. So we'll see if we can get him a little more directly towards the camera here. He's a little unsure of you guys today, that's okay. So they actually will make use of human habitats such as farm fields, schoolyards, your backyard. They are really good experts at hunting all the small critters that like to share our home. So think squirrels and mice and rats and chipmunks and rabbits. Red-tails are experts at hunting those creatures. So they are a really great pest control to have around. We talked about that a little bit on Tuesday with our friend Banshee. Owls and hawks and other raptors provide free pest control options for us and help to keep the populations at a healthy level and prevent them from spreading disease and things like that to us. Now, Killian, as I said, is an ambassador, so his job is to help us to teach people, and he has a really important role because unfortunately what happened to him is very preventable with some education. You know, most of you who watch Zoo School probably do admire hawks in the wild and enjoy seeing them, but while there's always wildlife that inhabit our areas, there's going to be conflict with that wildlife because humans, we have a lot to learn when it comes to sharing our space. And so If Killian's job can inspire somebody to find hawks and birds of prey beautiful and powerful and well-deserving of our care and protection, then maybe he can prevent what happened to him from happening to someone else. And that's what we really are hoping for, especially during Migratory Bird Day, where we're promoting love and empathy and understanding for our bird species. Now, because he is unable to fully fly, that's why he's here at the zoo, and unfortunately will not ever be returned to the wild. I'm just going to try to untangle him real quick here. Here we go. But he could live to be 15, 20 years old. Now, we're not exactly sure how old Killian is because he did come to us as an adult. And we know that because red-tailed hawks actually don't get their red tail until they're about 2 years old. So we estimate that he's around 9 or 10 years old. We're not totally sure, and that's okay. We hope that he'll be with us for a long, long time, and we do our best to keep good care of him, and that's kind of why we started doing these little flights, because even though he can't truly fly, he can still get some good exercise and stimulation, some enrichment from doing this activity. And it's a really fun way to demonstrate to people the power and beauty of the red-tailed hawk. There you can see those really big wings. Good job, buddy. Killian also occasionally has some problems with his feet, so the more activity he has, the healthier he will be. And it just gives us a fun activity as well. It helps us to learn how to best work with him. Killian has always been a little bit more shy, a little bit more nervous in new scenarios, and what we found is that giving him the chance to choose to participate, to choose to fly over or sit on his perch, he's totally welcome to just stay on that perch, he actually has become more confident, and so it helps us to make sure he's doing the best he can at his job rather than just trying to get him to do exactly what we think he should be doing. So it's been really fun to see him grow and become more confident. I know a couple years ago when we kind of first started training Killian a little bit, he was just so afraid of being on the glove, he wouldn't stay there at all, and we're really proud of how far he's come. And so he's a really good example of a second chance. You know, a lot of times when a bird, especially a raptor, is injured, they aren't able to be released. If you guys are familiar visitors to Elmwood Park Zoo, you've probably seen our eagle exhibit out front. All of the birds that are raptors on exhibit, and many of our education birds, are rescue rehab animals. And so there is some reason or another that they are deemed non-releasable and unable to be back in the wild on their own. So in that case, unfortunately, you know, in the wild, they would not survive. So here, they get a second chance to not only live and thrive, but to help their wild counterparts by spreading education. So in the wild, if you're a bird of prey, you're kind of at the top of the food chain until you get hurt, and then there's definitely plenty of things out there that are going to want to eat you. So for Killian to be unable to fly on his own, he wouldn't really be successful at hunting, and that would limit his survival. But here, he can meet lots of guests, he can live out a nice full life, and hopefully help people understand that this bird that shares our home and is very common is a great ally and worth protecting. I think many people that I encounter really enjoy red tails. They're absolutely one of my favorite species of bird, and especially because they do share our habitats. Now, just because I said they like to spend time in farm fields and our backyards doesn't mean you won't see them in the city. They actually commonly do hang out in Philadelphia and the suburbs of those areas. Again, they're eating all those small prey animals that we often attract accidentally with our messy human ways. So where there's food, those predators will come. Now, aside from the unfortunate situation with Killian, the biggest threat to these guys is often car collisions. And one of the easiest ways you guys can prevent this from happening is just to practice leave no trace and make sure your waste gets to the appropriate place. So many of us, and myself included before I really understood, think that if you're eating some kind of fruit or food and you're done with it and you're in your car, the first instinct is to just toss it out the window, right? Because you know it'll biodegrade, it'll break down, an animal will eat it. Well, unfortunately, an animal will eat it, but what that does is it attracts them to a very dangerous space. So even if that apple core doesn't attract a hawk, it does attract a squirrel or a rabbit or a rat. And then going after that rabbit or rat is going to be the predator. So unfortunately, those are situations that occur a lot. And we have a big machine going past in the back. Killian's doing a really nice job being very relaxed. So unfortunately, that situation happens a lot, and many of our birds that are here at the zoo that have wing injuries are from car collisions. So if you have food items, if you have materials in your car that you think are going to biodegrade, you think are fine to just toss out the window, please refrain. Make sure you take it out, compost it, get it to a waste site, do the right thing, because that will help save bird lives. So we'll see if he wants to come back over here. He's doing a really nice job. That was distracting, and that's a good boy. We'll see if we have any questions today about Mr. Killian. This is a reminder that if you would like to know something about him, please make sure you pop that in the comments, and I'm happy to answer it. If not now, then of course later today. He is one of my favorite birds to work with. So Killian's been at the zoo, I believe, around 8 or 9 years, and he is not on exhibit, but what we're hoping to do this summer is actually get him out in our Zoo Bowl Theater to show off for guests. So if you think he's really cool, like I do, and you guys want to meet him a little more closely, I'm hoping you guys will have that opportunity this summer to see him out in action at the zoo.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I know some raptors are known for mating for life. Are red-tailed hawks one of those raptors?
They are. So most of our birds of prey here in Pennsylvania are going to mate for life. So in the wild, they would be ready to lay eggs at around the age of 2 or 3. So once they mature, and if they have a steady partner that's alive, they'll return back to the same site every year. This time of year is actually red-tailed hawk nesting season, so this is baby season in general. So one of the ways you can also help your local wildlife is just to be aware of any impact you might be having on places where animals are nesting or raising their young. So if you have to do tree work in your yard, or you need to dig up some space in your neighboring areas, try to wait a little bit if you can. Try to make sure you're not impacting those nesting seasons. But they do nest for life. Now he's average size for red-tailed. The females would be much bigger. So Killian actually only weighs around 2 pounds, maybe a little bit more than that in the wintertime, because he does gain a little bit of weight for winter. But females can be upwards of 4 pounds, and they are significantly larger. And when they have, as far as their normal wingspan, Killian's is a little small. We'll see if he wants to come over one more time. I think he's getting a little full. He looks pretty satisfied right now. But when they are flying, you'll see how big those wings are. Naturally, they have around a 4 to 4.5 foot wingspan. So you can see there, that other wing's pretty big. And again, they're experts at soaring high in the sky. And the best way to identify them when they are flying is to look for that reddish-brown tail. The sun usually shines really nicely through it. You can kind of see a little better there. And that's a great way to identify them.
I do have one more question. I have personally witnessed hawks consume things that were not squirrels or rabbits or rats. I actually saw one eat a snake. And then I've actually seen a hawk grab a bird mid-flight. Is that a common thing for red-tailed hawks to do?
So they will eat pretty much anything they can catch. Now, they're not super big on eating other birds. Those are going to be opportunities that they'll seize. That's usually the Cooper's hawk, the sharp-shinned hawk. Those types of birds love to eat other birds, especially bird feeder visitors. But snakes, frogs, all different kinds of stuff. They will hunt for those animals too. Especially snakes, it seems like that's a favorite for these guys. And you'll often see them carrying them off with their talons. So like other birds of prey, their main weapon, their main source of tool for catching their food is going to be those talons. And then of course that sharp hooked beak is to help rip and tear. So they have a really strong grip strength. Might not seem like it. His feet don't look that big compared to an eagle's especially. But when he squeezes and grabs, he can squeeze it over 200 pounds per square inch. So again, that's why I have this really fashionable glove to help protect my hand from not only those sharp claws, but from that extreme grip strength. So we'll see if he wants to come over one more time. He might be totally full. He looks pretty content right now. If not, no big deal. One more, buddy, for the end of the show. Up. There he is. Good job, Killian. Great job, bud. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Zoo School, for helping us to train Killian. And again, if you are interested in learning more, feel free to drop comments in, and I can get back to those later. And we hope you guys will tune in next week for Zoo School Live on Tuesday. All right? Have a great day, everybody.